Okay, so this should be an interesting and fun video. I found out that the Earth is a level plane. I discovered that over a few years of a process that takes a lot of open mind to come to this realization. And once you do, you really want to find out for yourself if it's true or not, right? So there are everyday observations that a person can make to determine whether or not there is any curvature of the Earth. So what I decided to do, because there are hundreds or thousands of people coming up with these photographs all over the world that are showing distances, 50 miles, 100 miles of flat, absolutely flat surfaces, places that you shouldn't be able to see if the Earth curves. Now, the Earth must curve in order to complete the sphere that we all know the Earth is round and the Earth is 70% water, right? So the Earth must in fact curve at 8 inches per mile squared, which means that the water is 70% of the Earth's surface, and the water itself must curve at that 8 inches per mile squared. So understanding that, I said, I'm going to go out and take some photographs of the local coastline and see what I find. So I took some photographs, and it was quite amazing. So, well, everyone knows that water curves around the sphere. It's obvious, it's second nature. We all know that. The Earth is a sphere and it's round, and the oceans curve. Everyone knows that, right? So let's take a look and see if they really do. So what I did is took 3 photographs one's from Ventura up to the UCSB campus, one is from Ventura out to the Dos Cuadros oil platforms, which are offshore in Santa Barbara, and another from Ventura looking out towards Anacapa Island and the Channel Islands. This encompasses 500 square miles. It's 18 miles approximately from the beach out to the island, to the closest point, which is the Anacapa Arch, which I have a photograph of, and about 29 miles from Ventura up to Santa Barbara, UCSB Isla Vista area. The first photograph I'm going to show you is taken from Faria State Beach outside of Ventura, looking towards the UCSB campus up in Santa Barbara. It's an extremely clear day. Typically you cannot see this far depending on fog and especially temperature. There's an optical effect that when there's a specific temperature and moisture content, it compresses the air over the water and it distorts the height of things. So it looks kind of like a mirage, but it's a different effect. Anyways, this day I was standing on the beach. The camera was on a tripod. It is 3 feet over the ground and in the sand. I know my editing skills are terrible. I'm just starting out at this, but the picture here is, if you go online, there's different sites where you can determine the Earth's curvature. If you calculate the elevation of my camera was 3 feet, the curvature drop should be 412 feet, meaning there is a target hidden height of 412 feet. So there should be a big bulge of ocean in between your line of sight by 412 feet. And also important to say that the horizon from this elevation should be 2.12 miles. And typically if you're standing on the shoreline, it's about 6 foot elevations, about 3.2 miles, I think, which anybody that looks across the ocean, it's very obvious you can see much further than 3.2 miles at the horizon, which is, right in our faces, but we just never consider it because it's just common knowledge that the Earth curves, right? The other photograph I'm going to have here, again, it's too small to read, I think, but if you go to the U.S. Naval Academy website, they have their own determinations on the curvature, and I've verified here, double checked and cross checked, and it's the same elevation. They have 3 different ways they calculate depending on their metrics. So it's within a few feet, but it comes up basically the same thing. It's about 400 feet of curvature in this distance. What you're looking at here is the UCSB campus. This is up in Isla Vista, a little north of Santa Barbara. It comes out to a point and it's very distinctive. Typically you can't see it on any given day, but when you have the right conditions, you can see it with a high zoom camera, which I had, and you can see the sand bluffs here are 30 feet tall. And what's interesting about this picture I took is this is, again, it's from 27 miles away. You can see the entire sand bluff, which are 30 feet tall. You can see the buildings up above, and there's no bulge of water. There's no distortion. And again, this is 27 miles away, and the mandatory curvature drop must be 412 feet. And again, the horizon must be a little over 2 miles, but you can see the shoreline 27 miles away. This next picture is even more interesting. You can see a boat in the middle of the perspective. It was somewhere in the middle. It was kind of hard to judge, but it was somewhere in the middle between Ventura and the bluffs. Again, you can see the bluffs in the background, which are 30 feet tall. You don't see any mound of water, and you can see the bow of the boat, and it was probably 15-20 miles from me or 15-20 miles from the shoreline. So that boat, you can see the bow of the boat, you can see straight line straight across to the bluffs of Santa Barbara, which is 27 miles away, and there's no curvature whatsoever. This next photo I took from Emmawood State Beach, looking north towards Santa Barbara, and this is the Dos Cuadros offshore oil platforms. There's 4 of them, and what you're looking at, which we'll be looking at, is 4 oil platforms in line. I'll later show you a photograph I took from the shore in Santa Barbara showing the side view, but the photographs you're going to see are 17 miles from Emmawood State Beach, and this day was, again, extremely clear, and you can see the height of the oil platforms is 80 feet, and there should be 140 feet of curvature drop in this area, which is impossible because you can see the full body of the oil platforms that you'll later see. I'm showing you the Google Maps measurements. I'm showing you some actual photographs of the oil platforms. I'm going to show you some diagrams and the specifications of the actual oil platforms. You can see the exact heights. I can show you the curvature calculations, and you can see all of this, and there they are. No bulge and no water blocking these things. You can see the legs, you can see the body, you can see the cranes on top, all of them perfectly in line, which wouldn't be impossible, absolutely impossible, if the Earth was curving, because they would be out of sight and they would be buried by 140 feet of water as the Earth curved around. And again, from this perspective, the camera was 3 feet above the shore in the sand on a tripod, and the horizon should be 2 miles, 2.1 miles from that elevation. And I'm going to show you a little bit later a video of a boat motoring back and forth around these platforms. So I'm looking at this just kind of mesmerized. I mean, you see this, you come to the realization that, hey, maybe the water doesn't curve. And then you can see this far when you know that the mathematics says that this is impossible, and there they are. So I'm going to continue on here, and it's just a fun experience to to be able to share this with you. Okay, so this is pretty cool. This photograph I took from Santa Barbara City Beach. This is parallel to the Dos Cuadras oil platforms. You can see all four oil platforms out there. This is like, perpendicular off of the coastline of just about downtown Santa Barbara, California. And the next photograph you're going to see are all of those oil platforms in line from the long direction from Emmawood State Beach, which is 16.7 miles away, and there must be 141 feet of curvature drop in that 16.7 miles, and there isn't. The body of these oil derricks, these oil platforms, is 60 feet up to basically the top where they work, and then there's cranes on top. Now, take a look. You can see the entire legs. You can see the body. You can see the crane. And you can see all of them perfectly in line. And what's even more interesting is you can see the horizon behind them. And the horizon from this 3-foot elevation of my camera should be 2.12 miles away. And yet, past 17 miles, past the oil derricks, the horizon is way back there. So, again, this photograph is impossible if the Earth is curving. So, it's just one more, and I'll carry on. The last photograph I'm going to show you here is of the Anacapa Arch. I took this picture from my iPhone. So it's pretty grainy, but I was standing at the beach in Ventura Beach. Again, it's 17 miles, but it's a completely opposite direction from those oil derricks, and a little bit further south off the beach. But looking at this direction, I've seen this several times. Well, not several, but I'd say probably at least 5 times, maybe 10 times in my life, because it's very rare that you have the right temperature and the right environment that you can see this. So the Anacapa Arch is 38 feet tall, and you can see a picture of it from an overhead. You can see the distance that I have from the calculated measurements, and there it is. You can see it. It's a little grainy because I took it from my iPhone, and again, it's very rare you see it. There's something about looking straight into the ocean 17 miles has a different optical effect, and it's more difficult to see that far. I believe because of the temperature and the difference of the humidity in the water compared to looking side shore. If you're looking, like I said, from the shoreline along the coast, maybe not more than 3 or 4 miles off the coast, looking north to Santa Barbara, you can see a lot further most of the time. And these are optical effects. So anytime that you have the idea that the horizon's in a certain place or that you can only see so far, it's because it's an optical effect. A lot of what you see is an optical effect. We'll talk about this later on, but the way the sun sets is an optical effect. There's a vanishing point where the sun comes over your head and travels past you, and as it travels over your head and travels away, there's a vanishing point. Any artist understands the vanishing point. Look down a long hallway, there's a vanishing point. Now, it's a whole different topic. We'll talk about it another time, but you know, that's what it is. So let's stop here. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. I, just showed you 500 square miles of ocean that's flat, provably flat in all directions, and be skeptical. You should be skeptical, and I am too, but it took me several years to finally get my mind wrapped around this because it's so bizarre. And yes, there is a conspiracy of a body of people that are trying to deceive you, to make you believe something different than reality, to control you. So it's another discussion for a different day, but I'm going to add in a couple different things. Consider salt flats. Salt flats are so flat because when it rains during the winter time, it lays down a bed of water, and over a period of time through the spring, the rain slowly dries up and leaves a perfectly flat plain for hundreds of miles. There's many of them all over the world. If it was curving, then those salt flats would be curving by 8 inches per mile squared, and it would be provable. And those, land speed records would be kind of lifting off the ground, because as they drove, 30 miles, there would be 500 feet of curvature drop. And that would be something that would definitely affect a car going 700 miles an hour over those salt flats. Consider that. Also consider, look this up. Look up Kansas study, flat as a pancake. Kansas University study, flat as a pancake. And you will find that Kansas is as flat as a pancake. I'm talking zero curvature. And that doesn't stop at Kansas. It extends all the way through the Great Plains, all the way to the Appalachians, to Oklahoma, into Texas. We're talking the whole midsection. A good portion of the United States is an extensive flat plain. So is Asia. The entire inner body of Asia is a flat plain with mountain ranges here and there. That's what the world is. Flat oceans, and then there's flat plains for extended periods of time, and then there's hills and valleys. That's how it works. So think about it. I appreciate you listening, and I love that if you took the time to listen to this, I hope to carry this on. I love you, and all I want to do is share this information because it's so awesome. And it's time to get past the manipulation. It's time to get past all of the bullshit that we're fed. And let's get back to the truth, and let's get a better sense of reality. So anyways, let's talk soon.